Hold up, before we get too far, are you sure you clicked on the right video? Because if you came here expecting a spotless kitchen with matching cookware sets, a color-coded fridge, and 3 hours to prep dinner like it's your full-time job, darling, keep scrolling. That ain't what we do here. But if you're looking for a meal plan that actually works, like feed your family on a budget, use what you have, spend one dinner into 5 kind of work, oh well then darling, you're exactly where you need to be. Come on in, I've been saving a seat for you. Okay, so here's the truth no one is saying out loud. Most of us don't need more recipes, we need a better routine. So in this video, I'm walking you through the meal sequence that I use to feed my family all week long, without the burnout, grocery store panic, or wasting food. And I'm talking sheet pan meals to soups, casseroles, lasagnas, and more. Let's get on the same page. I did not get here because I am some meal prep genius. I got here by going back to what our grandmothers knew. Cook once, stretch it twice, and make every bite count. So if you're tired of reheating regret and calling it dinner, while your grocery bill climbs higher than your standards, grab a spoon, friend. We're about to cook smart, not sad. Now you listen real good. I am not here to play food blogger. I am actually handing you the cheat codes. And when it clicks, like when you start whipping up meals with what's already in your kitchen, you'll see I'm not out here spouting out nonsense. I'm just ahead of the curve. Well, really behind it because I don't do this modern stuff, but you get me. So first up, I'm giving you a free printable grocery list. It is specifically dialed in for early summer, so June, early July. And your list is packed with the fruits, veggies, and pantry staples that are actually in season right now. We're talking juicy strawberries, crisp greens, fresh herbs, and early summer squash, all at their peak season, both in taste and price. Now, hun, if it's not thriving in the field this week, it doesn't belong in your cart. It is not the time to pretend like it's August. No coupon clipping, no chasing digital points. Just meals built around what's fresh and what's budget friendly and naturally delicious. I know, it's simple. It's sensible. It's how every smart stretch a dollar at home cook has always done it. Especially the ones who knew a good sale when they saw it and how to turn it into dinner. And then next, you're gonna get my full-blown base to banger meal sequence. We start with one humble recipe and stretch it into 5 totally different meals. We are talking full wardrobe changes, y'all. You're gonna see me do this in real time. But I'm also breaking down swaps and custom spins for whatever picky gremlins live in your house. Because I'm only an expert on the ones that live in mine. So think chicken or beans, creamy, dairy-free, carnivore, vegan-ish, keto-ish. It is all in here, and yes, that printable is free too. And I'm not done. I'm also dropping in my kitchen organization hacks so that you're not crying into a cluttered cabinet at 6 p.m. Some of y'all might even be able to cook with me as you watch because this video is that accessible. So clear a little counter space and a lot of mental clutter because by the end of this, you'll have answers to the what's for dinner question for days. The foundation of this meal sequence starts with fridge bins, and you only need 3. And yes, you need them. Hear me out. Now, I too was a fridge bin skeptic because I thought, why would I take up precious space with more containers? But when I was honest with myself, I realized that the problem in my meal prep routine wasn't the space. It was me standing in the kitchen at 6:15 with a full fridge and no idea what to do with it. Now, some of y'all flatter me in the comments, but I am not some domestic unicorn who loves cooking every day. I work full time. I've got people counting on me and dozens of undone projects. So when I tell you that these fridge bins have saved me, I'm talking about my time, my brain, and most importantly, my groceries from going bad. Plus, this whole sequence is about one dinner idea setting up the next one. So now we're just gonna sort everything into 3 fridge bins. Not 7, not 5, just 3. No color-coded chaos, just 3 bins, 1 system, and no food left behind. Okay, so in bin number 1, we're going to put in everything that is fresh and ready to go. So these are going to be things that you're going to wash and chop ahead of time so that you're not crying into a cutting board on a Tuesday night. And I actually love the 10 minutes or so that I get to chop vegetables, because that's the time that I take to visit all the friends in my head's kitchens on YouTube. But I'm so glad that you stopped by today and gave me some company. So this week I have some leeks which shine in the spring for both price and flavor. And if you haven't had leeks, they're basically like the flirty cousin of onions. They are sweeter, they're gentler, and they are a total gut health booster. They're in season in late spring, and they're gonna give our first meal that soft, savory backbone. Next up are potatoes, and I have a combination of both sweet potatoes and these little potatoes. And I love cooking with potatoes because they're the carbs that comfort without overwhelm. Potatoes are also high in potassium, they are super filling, and perfect for stretching a meal. Next up, you want a combination of greens, at least 2, maybe up to 4 or 5. And these are some fresh dandelion greens from my friend's farm. Now remember, when you're storing your greens, you just want to grab a little towel Now this is Swiss chard from my garden, and a little wilted is absolutely fine because we're gonna chop this up. And just as a reminder, y'all, greens are iron rich and they are vitamin packed. We've also got some carrots, which are perfect for folding into almost anything. Carrots are cheap, they're versatile, and they last for weeks in the fridge. I also have these snap peas, which I got from my friend's garden, and you may have these growing in yours. You're also gonna see these in stores and at your farmer's markets because they are at peak freshness this time of year. They are crisp, sweet, and tender right off the vine. Last calls for asparagus because you maybe only have another month before the price starts to double on you. And that's because asparagus is at its freshest when it's harvested in season. And that's usually April through June. And it's during this season when the stalks are tender and sweet and they're very quick to cook. Now guess what I learned in the last meal sequence from one of the farm girls here on the channel. So she shared that storing fresh asparagus upright in a jar or a glass container with a little bit of water, like a bouquet, helps to keep the stalks crisp and hydrated. That little tip can help you keep your asparagus fresh for over a week. Save those asparagus ends, people. First, because even though asparagus ends get a bad rap for being fibrous and hard to chew, when they're in season, they're actually going to be very tender. See, so like this is the end. Can you see that? Yeah. So this is the end. It's delicious. So I'm going to show you a recipe where you can turn these into pickle sticks and you can turn these into a delicious veggie powder. Now I also have some produce that I just need to use up. So there's maybe a few half stalks of celery in here and then a little less than half of a cabbage that I'm working with. Again, I just store this in one of my reusable plastic bags with a linen towel, but I'll find a way to fold this in. All right, so these are all the fresh ingredients that we're gonna be using this week. Now, just to be clear, when I get home from the grocery store, this is how I like to initially put everything into the refrigerator. And then maybe later on that evening or the following day, I'll take this bin back out and then I'll start doing, my chopping, slicing, that kind of thing. I'm telling you, even if you don't leave a comment, read the comment section because you are certain to find tips galore, that's for sure. Y'all, it is officially summer squash season, so we're definitely working these into our meal sequence. And squash is extremely nutrient dense, especially for how low calorie it is. It's packed with vitamin C, which supports immune function and skin health, vitamin B6, potassium. It's an excellent source of fiber and antioxidants. Limes are also super fresh and in season this time of year and are an excellent way just to add that pizzazz to any dish. All right, grab meal bin number 2. And this is where we're gonna keep our dairy, our sauces, our meat, and mix-ins. So this is our portion of ground beef for the week, which I'm gonna stretch by using some pork sausage. And if adding pork to stretch your ground beef combination doesn't work for you, figure out what is. And so I have also done like ground chicken with lentils, or I just toss in like extra chopped vegetables, because it is absolutely a way to stretch your animal protein that your wallet will notice, but your taste buds won't. So next up, you're gonna need cheese. 2 combinations of whatever you've got. I've got cheddar, a little ricotta, crumbled goat cheese, which just adds that fluffy texture, yogurt, which is another staple that I love cooking with from breakfast to dinner. So I'm also gonna pour off some milk and put it in a fridge bin. Now, I don't always do this, but here's why. So earlier this week, I actually just made all of these homemade cereals. And so I know my husband's gonna be reaching to make, a bowl of cereal since that's a treat. And so one of the things that I like about the fridge bins is that my family knows if it's in a fridge bin, I need that for a meal. Because if I don't have it, you know how the recipe might turn out. And so for that reason, it moves like the core ingredients that you know in your mind that you need for a recipe, but your household may not. It's out of general circulation. And so when I go to cook, I know that I have everything I need. You're also gonna need cornbread mix, and you can just toss in a couple boxes of Jiffy. But what I do is I make a big old batch of my cornbread mix since I already have the staple ingredients. And so like my dry goods for the most part are organized like in this cabinet above here. They're organized into like using these various size containers. And so what I started to do is I just taped like the Jiffy ingredients here. And then I have a recipe where I make my own. It's either like 8.5 or 9 ounce sizes, but I have pre-portioned them from my bulk mix in here, because if it's just like Trey and I, maybe like a guest or two, this is actually fine for us. And then I'll just go ahead and use like my big old mix that I keep up there, like for company. So yeah, I already have these ready to go. So that's what I am gonna toss in my meal bin. Bin 3 is gonna be your cooked and ready bin. You're gonna need some type of flatbread or dough, so think tortillas or pie crust or puff pastry. And then I'm gonna toss in these 2 empty bags now because in a moment we're gonna make the meal starter base and another container for the dip that we're about to make. Lastly, you're gonna need some canned food staples. And here's what I do. I will either leave these items out on my counter so that they're like visible and I know that that's what I need that week. Or if I do have room in my fridge bins, I will go ahead and add them right to the bin. Do they need to be refrigerated? No, like not at all. But again, it's the mental lift that I don't have to do when I'm coming home from work. And the all-star team for this week starts off with some red enchilada sauce, followed by jalapenos, optional of course. I need to can more of these this summer. I completely did not can enough last year. Black beans or whatever your favorite bean is. But we're going for like a Tex-Mex theme, as you could tell. Roasted verde sauce. And some corn. This is one of my favorite canning recipes. So actually this is chicken and corn soup. I will link a video to where I show you, I think it's like 8 different meals that you can start with this soup. And so this goes into like, there's a cornbread mixture that I made with this. There's a pasta that I made, a soup, a casserole. And so yeah, this is a pantry favorite. All right, and with that, your hands have touched every ingredient that you're gonna need for the next 7 days. Sorry, you're gonna need an egg, and I might run out to the garden to get some fresh herbs. All right, so as a reminder, you have meal prep 1, which is where everything is going to be chopped and ready to go. And meal bin 2, this is everything that's gonna be cooked and ready to go. These are the things that we're gonna batch prep now so that we're not cooking from scratch midweek. And finally, meal bin 3, this is where we keep all of our dairy and our sauces and our extras. It's where you stash the stuff that finishes a dish or gives it body. It is this little system right here that allows me to walk into my kitchen at 5:45 p.m. and feel like I've already done the hardest part. And this is not about perfection. It's about having a rhythm. It's about building a week of meals that are full of color and flavor and intention, but without you cooking every single little thing from scratch every night. So give it a try. Open your fridge, pop in 3 bins, and start there. You know what I also thought about just now and got up to grab? It's these. So I use these in my classroom as a way to like label stuff, but then I also just started like using them around my house for stuff. And so although I have not used this method myself, I think it's gonna work for a lot of y'all. So especially like if you're new to this and you really need that kind of like initial hand holding. So the bins that I use are not special. I got these at TJ Maxx or Ross or I don't know, they're all like in that same little complex. I like having something that just has like handles to make it easy to carry, something you can wipe off, something that is clear. But you know what you could also do, because initially I was doing this. If there was a recipe that I wanted to try, I would just put it in a sheet protector. And then sometimes I would even like stick it in the bin with like all the ingredients, you know, that I needed. This is before I was doing more of like sequencing like stuff. But you could get these. And I will link these. I think they're already linked actually. But you could put these up here so it's not going to fit on that side because then it's going to block my handle. But do y'all see what I'm doing here? You could take this little thing, right? And stick it to the side of your bin. And then you can just put in like whatever it is. You can put in the recipe cards that you're going to take from this video, something that you're already doing. You can just write something down on, you know, a notebook or these little note cards, stick it in here, take it out. I mean, y'all. Yeah, this is a good hack. All right, let's pop these in the fridge. I will see you later on this week. I just love meal bin number 1 because this is what makes everything else possible. And we're gonna make this creamy spring hash with leeks, potatoes, and wilted greens. And that is the combination that's going to carry us through the rest of the week without any fuss. Now this dish is cozy and it's creamy and it's packed with vegetables. But it's also pretty humble. It's not trying to win any awards. It's trying to give you dinner and then set you up for tomorrow. And that That's what I need more of in my life. So you want to start by chopping up your potatoes. You're going to boil your potatoes in salted water for about 10 minutes. Let's grab those carrots. You just want to boil your potatoes until they're fork tender, not until they're mush. You want them to hold their shape when we toss them in later. But while that's going, let's cut up our leeks. Now you actually only use the white up to the light green part of the leek, but don't toss those dark green tops away. All right, the potatoes are ready. Let's drain them. Now we're going to cut off the ends of our leeks, but save them. So now your leeks are ready to be sliced. And I am telling you, I think that leeks are one of the unsung heroes. They are way gentler than onions, although I love onions. And they just bring this slow, savory sweetness that just sets the tone for an entire dish. However, they can also be extremely dirty, which is why you want to make sure that you clean them very, very well. And to do this, we're just going to cover them with some water. This is just room temperature water for a couple of minutes. And then all you need to do is just like zhuzh them for a little bit. And then what will happen is that the leeks will float to the top. Now, to be sure, if you can't get your hands on the leeks, don't even worry about it. I honestly have leeks maybe 2, max maybe 3 times a year. But when I do have them, this is a way to really stretch them and make a meal feel special. After a couple minutes, you'll take another bowl and then place a strainer over top. And then what we're going to do is lift the leeks out and place them into this strainer. You don't want to take the water from here and then pour it back over top because that defeats the purpose of getting the dirt off. But yeah, just let them kind of drip for another minute or 2. And now to a heavy bottom pot, you are going to add garlic. How much, girl? Lots and lots of garlic. And then you're going to drizzle with a little olive oil. And while this is getting fragrant, let's grab a pan to cook our meat. That's right, you're going to need your meat and mix-ins bin. All right, let's add our leeks. Oh, this smells divine. So now we're gonna chop up our clean greens. And y'all, I eat all of my greens, right? I don't remove them from the stems, especially if I'm going to be sauteing them. They're already going to get, nice and soft anyways. And they still have a very similar taste profile like the leaves. So yeah, eat it all. And now we'll chop up the chard. All right, so here's the thing. You are going to want a lot of greens, like a minimum of 10 cups or more, because you know how greens are, they vanish. And we're gonna slowly add them to our sauteed leeks. So I'll do a couple handfuls at a time, let that cook down, and come back over. Slap this on for 30 seconds. Now let's go ahead and chop up the asparagus. I'm gonna chop it up a little smaller than what I normally do, just so it's kind of like a contrast with the right size and texture. So we have the wilted greens. We're gonna have these little pops and bits of asparagus. Oh, it's gonna be glorious. All right, so we'll drop in the asparagus. And here's that teeny tiny amount of cabbage that I have that I wanted to just go ahead and get rid of. So adding that in. My goodness, this just looks like an amazing vegetable stir fry, right? Just like that, we've gotten to the fun part, because this is where we bring it all together. So we need to make room on the stove here. Let's scooch that over. So we're gonna need our pot of potatoes. And then to this, we're gonna add in or spoon in our vegetable mixture, which tastes and smells amazing, y'all. I lifted enough out, so now I can lift the pan. All All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and add our ground meat. And remember that this could be chicken or sausage or plant-based, whatever works for you and your crew. Just go ahead and fold that in. So doing this turns the dish into a full meal. But if you're meat-free, don't worry. The leeks and the greens hold it down. The only thing left to do at this stage is to create a creamy body, and that comes together fast because we're just going to pour over some milk and add in your yogurt. But remember, if you don't have yogurt, but you have sour cream, use that. And the amount, obviously, is just to get it to where you have a creamy body based off of the amounts of things that you were using. Oh my gosh. Ooh. We are going to place this in the oven to bake, but let me tell you, I won't tell anybody if you go ahead and take a spoonful right now. So as you can tell, this dish is not playing any games. At this point, you may want to just add a little bit of salt. I think that it's fine because I have the saltiness that's coming from the pork sausage. I am going to add my smoked paprika, which I add to so many dishes, along with a little bit of turmeric. We're really just making sure that everything marries together. And as it bakes and those flavors meld, oh my word. The only thing that's left to do is to slide this whole thing into a 375-degree oven for about 15 to 20 minutes until the edges are bubbling and golden. Now, if you don't have an oven-safe skillet, just transfer everything to a casserole dish. It'll be just as good. But you need to start cooking with cast iron. Now, this is just a little reminder that what you see me doing is a roadmap, not a recipe. So if you didn't have milk or dairy, you could have used broth to bring it all together. It's just that I love using Greek yogurt or sour cream, but you could use coconut milk or skip it all together. If you've got sausage, great, but if you have mushrooms, amazing. If you've got neither, this still slaps. You can't mess it up. Look, I know this isn't the kind of recipe that you're gonna see going viral on TikTok. It's not dripping in cheese. There's no 17-step sauce, but it is practical. It's nutritious and it's generous because that's about to feed you the rest of the week. And this is what we've lost in just a generation or two. It's that very idea that meals should flow into each other. Dinner tonight is already prepping tomorrow. You can serve that meal straight from the skillet, top it with a poached egg if you're feeling fancy, or scoop it beside some sourdough and call it a day. All right, y'all, it's dinner time. Let's scoop this on a plate. Now, this is just me, y'all, and it might not be your thing, but I'm definitely adding some goat cheese. It just provides this nice, like, tangy contrast. I love that. Okay, y'all, so let me taste test this with y'all because it is amazing. You have so much going on here in the best way possible. It's so good. So you have the chunks of potato that, again, when you bite into them, you just sink your teeth into them. I'm getting some of the sweetness from the sweet potato, but then also the butter potatoes. The skin of potatoes is where it actually has more nutrients. And so I love that this recipe, you just leave them on, right? Like you can't even tell that they're there. And then you have all of these like textures from the greens that are really giving it that kind of grounding flavor. You have that savory, semi-sweet taste that's coming through from the leeks. I mean, this dish is both bright and flavorful, but this is like a comfort dish. It is such a comfort dish. And then in my version, I have the combination of the ground beef and the sausage. So you have like those pork flavors coming through. You have your dandelion greens, which dandelion greens can be bitter when they're raw, but they're super nutritious. And in this recipe, I mean, they lose all of that or it's just hidden. And so I love that this is an all-in-one dish where I don't have to be worried about like, do I have a starch? What about protein? What about the amount of vegetables? It's all in here, right? Oh, this is so good. So here's where our system kicks in. I have set aside the base that we'll continue to use throughout the rest of the week. But then I also still have a little bit left over in the pan because this is the base of our next meal. It's a dump and bake recipe that looks way fancier than what it is. Can y'all see that? I've got like this much left in the pan. Plus we're like 75% of the way there, but we are gonna need to grab meal bin 2. So what we're doing is making a Tex-Mex casserole with a cornbread topping. So we're gonna toss in a can of black beans, our enchilada sauce, and if you like things spicy, jalapenos. You're also gonna need your cornbread mix. Now all we've gotta do is just open and dump these 2 jars. Okay, so we'll go ahead and dump this in. And now we're gonna open up our jar of black beans. These black beans are optional, but I just love black beans, as y'all know. And we're gonna dump these in. A few jalapenos. We'll go ahead and give things a good stir. Y'all, let me tell you something. This combination right here is my way of saying I'm about to serve you leftovers in a whole new outfit. I'm telling you, most of the time, that combination is going to bail you out and allow you to seamlessly transition from one recipe right into the next. So now we're just gonna go ahead and make our cornbread. And if your family is anything like mine, they just lose their minds over cornbread topping. I mean, it is cornbread, but still. And just because I have a Southern dad, y'all, I can't not cook my cornbread and not toss in a little bit of sugar. It's not needed, but I do it. All right, so let's go ahead and whip this on up. Now I think I forgot to mention that when we sat down for dinner, I just cut the oven on. So it has preheated up to 400 degrees. The cornbread mix is done, and praise the good Lord Jesus that we can just pour this over top in our existing pan, which is going to go into the oven. Y'all know I try to be as strategic as possible with dishes, not only because I don't have ample space for every dish in the world, but come on now, we don't have to, the kitchen does not have to be a tornado when you're finished. All right, then we're just gonna smooth this out on top. Into the oven we go. And then I'm just gonna set my little magnetic timer here. It also has a little kickstand for 25 minutes, and I'll check in on the cornbread. Okay, so I just grabbed my leftover bag from the fridge because I'm gonna go ahead and make breakfast. Well, I should say a recipe, because one of the things that I like about my base recipe is that I can nearly almost always fold it into breakfast the following morning, which is the point, right? You've got options and it's easy, and we're not starting from zero every day. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is make breakfast cups, and these freeze wonderfully. So I could go ahead and say, hey, I wanna eat them this week, or just, tuck them in the freezer later on. But yeah, I'm gonna scoop some of this mixture. I mean, think about it, right? These things are very filling. We have the potato and the meat and the ground sausage and your veggies. All right, that step is done. And now, remember, you're in a real kitchen. So I'm gonna take the cornbread bowl, right? That just had our eggs and our milk in there, y'all. And I'm actually going to, I want to kind of bind this together so it's a breakfast muffin by using eggs. Now you could just take 1 egg, crack it, and pour it over top of that 6 eggs. My limit for this recipe is 3. And so I'm just gonna stretch it out with some milk. So that's what we're gonna go ahead and do. And if I get a little cornbread flavoring in there, I mean, that's okay. All right. All right, then we're gonna go ahead and stretch this with a little bit of milk. Yeah, kind of eyeballing things, but that will be enough. Okay, so now we're just gonna go ahead and add a little bit of cheese. And y'all, I am telling you, I hope I am not giving anyone the impression that I'm cooking all day, every day, because that certainly ain't true. But one of the things that I'm intentional about a lot of the times, because if I don't do it, I just get overwhelmed, then I get cranky. But when I'm in the kitchen, I'm like, okay, what can I streamline? I want to go in, and there are periods where my kitchen is open, and then my mom and I joke, we're like, the kitchen's closed, because I've already been so efficient and kind of knocked out several things at a time, right? Okay, so we got the cheese going. Now we're just gonna go ahead and add our scrambled eggs over top. Plus, y'all, doing something like this isn't even rocket science. The oven is already on and hot, and the closer we get to summer, I'm very strategic about the times that I use my oven. Sorry, let me get my pot holder here. Yeah, I'm really strategic about the times that I need two. let me stop running my mouth so I can concentrate. But I'm really like particular about the times that I use my oven. It's usually early in the morning, you know, when things are still cool, or later on in the evening. And so I forgot to do this trick that someone on the channel mentioned a couple of years ago, which is to have like a baking sheet underneath. Hold on, I'll be right back. Whew, okay, I got that in there. If you don't use that baking sheet trick, you just have to move extremely slowly. But yeah, so like the oven is already running, and so it's kind of like, why not? All right, so do I really need to tell y'all what this tastes like? Whew. Hot. On this here fork, we have Tex-Mex meets Southern Comfort, and it is just delicious. Again, we still have the nutrition coming from everything, our vegetable medley, which really is just overpowered by just amazing flavors. Two meals in one day, y'all. So when I pulled the cornbread out, the muffins were also ready. And so here is what we're working with. I really love using these silicone baking tins because everything just easily pops out. Whew, that's hot. All right, so let me show you. This is what we're working with. So again, this is high protein. You're loading up on lots of fiber from all of those veggies. You've got a little bit of the ground, what are we using here? Ground beef and the sausage mixed with the cheese. Come on now. Friends, I am telling you, front loading your meals with a weekly sheet pan is where it's at. So let's go ahead and look at the inside of this. Again, these are going to freeze beautifully. They microwave right on up in the morning. You have all of this savory flavor. Oh my gosh. So good. It's everything you love about breakfast. You have the leeks and the potatoes and the breakfast sausage. It's just, oh, this is so good. All right, we're gonna let these cool and then stick them in the fridge. If this is our first time meeting, hi, I'm Cassandra from the blog becomingfarmgirl.com, and I'm here to help you cook with what's on sale and season, and better yet, already on your shelf. If you're already on my grocery guide list, then your June meal sequence is already sitting in your inbox. If not, and you want it, you can click the link in the pinned comment description box or the QR code on your screen. A real quick side note to the farm girls that have been here for a minute. You know how I usually mash up my monthly meals and then the pantry chat together? Well, don't worry, that's coming because I do have updates. This farm girl in the making has snagged another way to grab fresh meat without hunting, and I'm dipping my toe into a completely new homesteading skill. That video is coming and it's just gonna be chatty. Before we dive into this meal plan, if you have been following along with this recipe, give yourself a pat on the back. Because so far you have stretched greens, meat, you've transformed hash into a casserole that looks like it belongs in a potluck lineup, and tonight you're gonna make a delicious summer chowder. And this is a creamy corn and summer squash recipe that leans hard on what we've already started. This recipe is cozy, it is one pot, and it lets you catch up on whatever else you need to do, like laundry or scroll. So you're gonna start by adding a little fat to your pan, and you just wanna brown things up. And if you're me, you're gonna wanna add a little bit more garlic. All right, the garlic is fragrant, so now what we're gonna do is start to build this chowder by adding a couple of spoonfuls of our base mix. And you also just want this to get fragrant, right? Because it's already cooked. You know what? I just caught myself making an assumption. So I wanted to make a chowder this week, and I'll be folding in even more canned corn recipes because this is the time of year. in about a month where corn is in season, and I will be canning more of my fresh corn. And so I'm essentially trying to clear up the inventory that I have left over from last year. It's really not a lot because I love corn. But yeah, so that's why we're definitely making a chowder, because I need these jars back. Now, I do need to add a little bit more broth to this, and a lot of y'all know that I keep scrap stock on hand. So this isn't pressure canned, but because I cook with so much produce, I can easily just like throw the scraps in a crock pot and I have some type of broth. So just use any broth you have. This could be chicken, veggie, ham, or that weird box of mushroom that you've been meaning to use. So we just want to let things simmer until everything is tender. Yeah, that's looking right. I mean, like, you know how much broth you want on your spoon. Yeah. And now let's fold in our chopped zucchini. Now, to this chowder, if you wanted something bright, herbaceous, and a little unexpected, salsa verde is your move. But if you want something that's thick and creamy and rich without the tang, then just leave it. And the thing is, you're gonna wanna treat this like a seasoning or as a finishing swirl, but not like the base component. And so because this is adding that acidity and earthiness and brightness, it is really going to change up the flavor profile just enough so that your family isn't like, oh man, it's the same thing again. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually round this out with just a little splash of cream, or you could use coconut milk, or even drop in like a pat of butter if it starts to feel too tart. Now, I really love this stuff, so I go in a little heavy-handed. It's really good. And now we're gonna add just a splash of milk to keep things creamy. Now folks, you know I'm from Maryland, so my chowder has to have Old Bay. So we're just gonna cover this up and let things simmer for a bit. Did you see how easy that was to go from the same base but to get a brand new bite? I mean, now we have a smoky chowder that feels brand new thanks to the salsa verde and the Old Bay. And doing that creates a flavor twist that your taste buds didn't even see coming. Now, I know what some of y'all are thinking, that this soup here is missing a cornbread topping. Good thing we made that the other night. I mean, besides these two soup bowls, I am walking out of the kitchen tonight with only one pan to clean. Let's go ahead and taste this. It is so good. Oh my goodness. The salsa verde just really adds that, like, it's a really good balance of the acidity and the zippiness to this dish, where again, it's an entirely new flavor profile. And then also stacking it with the corn and the zucchini. It just continues to add like a difference in like texture and taste from the night before, or just a couple of new ingredients, you know? Now, some of y'all may be thinking that this feels a little odd, but here's the thing. We are the only generation that has been raised to think that a meal needs to be new and perfect every night. Pull that thread all the way through, because that line of thinking has only left us stressed, overspending on grocery budgets, and ordering takeout on a Wednesday night. But real cooking, and I'm talking about farm cooking, ancestral cooking, or even the way that diners and small restaurants run their kitchens, is repurposing with intent. And by the way, this chowder store is great, and it only gets better as it sits. Guess what you could easily have for lunch tomorrow? All right, farm girls, you already know what I did before I took dinner to the table. I cut the oven on. I already jarred up some of the soup to take to work for lunch tomorrow. Trey will have the Tex-Mex casserole because, honey, we've got to set aside some of what we just made for our next meal. And I'm gonna take the next couple of minutes to make it because we're already like 75% of the way there. So to our chowder, we're going to add some milk and a cornstarch slurry. So what this is just a tablespoon of cornstarch with 2 tablespoons of water. And you want to use this when you want to create a classic creamy sauce-like finish without altering flavor or adding grittiness. As a reminder, the temperature should be slightly above simmering. So on my stove, it says low, simmering, and then 2. So it's almost at the 2. Next, you're going to dump in some cheese. Just however cheesy you want it, but not all of it because we need to save some of it to create our layers. So this is where we're grabbing Meal Prep 3 bin. I'm gonna toss in some of my crumbled goat cheese. And this is really where just mixing and matching up your cheeses really works in your favor. All right, y'all, so you know that your sauce is ready when it's coating the ladle thickly, but it doesn't, like it's not running off like a soup. And then you also want to just check to see that you have like a nice body from the sauce, because this is, which this absolutely have from what we just had, you know, a couple of minutes ago. And then it's going to actually set further in the oven as the cheese melts and the tortillas that we're going to use are going to absorb even more of this moisture. I've got to do it. You know, I've got to add my smoked paprika. Okay, friends, so now you're going to grab your corn tortillas and we're just going to, I mean, you could do this in a cast iron pan, but I might just go ahead and freeze it like in here. And so you're just going to take your corn tortillas and I just like to cut them right down the middle. Again, these are acting like our lasagna noodles. So we're going to lay down our first layer. And then we're going to dollop in our ricotta cheese, which is really going to give this that lasagna profile. And now we're going to take this delicious, nutritious, thick and creamy sauce and ladle it right over top of the ricotta. I mean, you talk about an assembly of a quick casserole. Doesn't get faster than this. And next we'll sprinkle with some cheese. And we're gonna go ahead and create a second layer. And you know what I really like about using the corn tortillas for lasagna layers is that, one, like they're already ready. I just buy these in bulk and then I, you know, put them into smaller packages. And so when it's time to make lasagna, look, I don't have to boil the noodles or anything like that. These are good and ready to go. And then plus, I am already buying corn tortillas because, or, you know, corn or flour tortillas. Sometimes I do make them as well, not all the time. But because we love like Taco Tuesday or just like tacos in general, right? But then it's also like, well, what do you do beyond those recipes? Y'all, it's stuff like this. And also remember, y'all, that perhaps like you don't have to follow that meal sequence in order after you finish with the sheet pan meal. And so this filling could have very easily been the Tex-Mex recipe because, again, with the tortillas, it's definitely going to go. And that's what I like about like a meal sequence, right? Using what you have is that it really is adaptable. All right, y'all, so this really is the dish that can keep on giving. I purposely made enough filling because this freezes wonderfully. And so now a part of my like cooking routine, in addition to like the meal sequences, is freezer meals, right? And so I am just going to put this in a bag, lay it flat, put it in the freezer, and then I've got a casserole that's going to be ready in minutes. Man, I wish you could taste this because what I am about to freeze right here is a base that I might actually, and I've done this in the past before, so this is a really good, like, it's savory, but it doesn't lock you into a particular taste. And so what I'll likely do next time is add a can of cream of mushroom and then a can or several cans of tuna, because this would work really well as a tuna noodle casserole. And so, I mean, yeah, that's really what this might be. Not a lasagna at all, but just use like the little elbow, not the elbow. What are the egg noodles? Yeah, so I might use the egg noodles, throw in some tuna, additional cheese, several cans of cream of mushroom, and I've just made a tuna noodle casserole. Or again, maybe something different. I don't know, but that's what I love about cooking this way, it's that I always have options. Now, this ain't the recipe that's going to plate up beautifully for you, but trust and believe it is delicious. I'll take a bite for you and describe all this deliciousness. So, you've got those corn tortilla layers, and that flavor is bursting through, along with now all of those flavors kind of like mellowing out in the ricotta. You got the layers of cheese, and y'all, I'm telling you, the taste has once again been absolutely transformed. You know what? I think this meal right here represents what's been broken and how we're taught about how to cook. Because we've been handed this idea that each meal is its own event. But that is exhausting because you don't need 30 new recipes. You need to know 5 that talk to each other. You wouldn't build a house and then toss away the scraps every night. So why are we doing that in our kitchens? And because I cook like this, I walked into the kitchen. It is not a mess. I made 2 meals, a freezer recipe, and lunch. All right, y'all, it's about an hour later. And since I haven't worn myself out in the kitchen, I do have time to sneak in a preservation project tonight. Since we only have 1 meal left to make, and because my recipes have been so nutrient dense and varied with the vegetables, I still haven't found it like a spot where I can sneak in these carrots or the peas or the little bit of celery that I wanted to use up this week. Plus, we've still got those leek tops on deck. So this combination is screaming vegetable broth. But just because seasonally I'm going to be swimming in scrap ends, I do always have a crock pot of scraps going, and I'm good on that. I'm good on it canned. But you know what is getting low? It is my dehydrated versions of vegetable broth. Now, of course, I said that as you see me pulling out my freeze dryer trays, but I do all forms, right? So I'm gonna put some in the freeze dryer. I'm gonna use some in the dehydrator, because what I am hoping to do with the freeze dried form is to have enough that I'm building up like over these next couple of months to send to my parents, and the freeze-dried version is going to retain more of the nutrients for longer as I, build up enough of my inventory. Do you know what has never made sense to me? How we'll toss out the most nutrient-rich parts of our vegetables only to turn around and spend $40 on a supplement that claims to do the same job. Take leeks, for example. The dark green parts that we're so quick to discard, they're actually loaded with vitamin K, manganese, and even prebiotic fiber that feeds the good bacteria in your gut. Why are we throwing that away? Then there's celery leaves and stalks, rich in vitamin C, potassium, and natural electrolytes like sodium and magnesium. They even have compounds that help lower blood pressure. That's not scraps, that's plant medicine. Carrot tops are another gold mine. They're packed with chlorophyll, vitamin K1, and trace minerals like iron and calcium. Even snap peas, especially if they're starting to go limp, are high in vitamin C, folate, and fiber, and they contain a surprising amount of zinc and vitamin A, both key for immune and skin health. Here's what I do. When these tops or scraps don't make it onto the plate, I don't toss them, I dry them. Then I grind them into a fine powder and either store them in an airtight jar to sprinkle into meals or broths, or fill capsules to make my own real food supplements. TGIF, y'all. All this week at work, it has been Spirit Week for the kids since we're just at 2 weeks until the school year finishes, and we finished with state testing last week. And it's fun for the kids, but it is so exhausting for staff. We have had either it's been field trips and fun day and all these end of year classroom celebrations, and it's just it's been so much. So today we had a students versus staff game. And let me tell you, those 5th graders are trying to take you out. But all jokes aside, it's a bittersweet time of the year. So the 5th graders, because my school is pre-K through 5th grade, so they're getting ready to graduate. And last year was my first year at this school. And because of a teacher vacancy, I actually taught 4th grade for the first quarter in addition to being the literacy coach. And so I absolutely bonded with that class. And now they're graduating, and those are just your babies. So anyways, my body and my mind is like, what have you been doing this week? Which is why I am so glad that I have not had to think about meal prep. Let's go ahead and grab our meal bins. So for this recipe, you just need a few scoops of the chowder that we made the other night. So believe it or not, we are going to turn this into crispy fritters. which will make your brain explode with how far this one pot has traveled. This is what I mean when I say real life cooking, no waste, just rhythm, and maybe a cornbread crumble or two. Okay, so into the bowl, we're going to add, you'll at least need like a cup or two of your chowder. Okay, so just a little bit of an FYI, if your chowder was a little soupy, you're gonna wanna scoop out the thick stuff with a slotted spoon. You really just want the creamy veg. You don't want a broth puddle. Now to this, you wanna add a cup of some type of grated vegetable, whether it is squash or carrot or potato or whatever, like whatever you've got. So I like adding summer squash one because I am growing it. It is in season and abundant. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and add 1 egg. And I'm gonna go ahead and season this up with a little bit of seasonal salt and some pepper. And to this, we're gonna add some baking powder so that our fritters will rise. And finally, we're gonna add like a half cup of flour. And now it's time to mix everything together. Okay, so a consistency like this is perfect. And now what we're gonna do is just let this chill in the fridge for like 10 to 15 minutes. And that's gonna give it time for the veggies to release any extra liquid, because that is what keeps the fritters crisp instead of soggy. Okay, so while that is chilling in the fridge, let me tell you what you just did this week. You made 5 dinners from scratch without burnout. And heck, we're ending the week with something that's crispy and fun and actually feels like a treat. My husband thinks these are snacks. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there smug like, that was chowder 24 hours ago. So this is why you better print that meal sequence and grab your fridge bins and give this system a try, because once you cook this way and see how doable it is, you can't unsee it. So I was sitting here thinking what I really want to stamp in this video. And for me, cooking really started to make sense when I stopped thinking of it as a standalone performance and instead shifted my thinking to it being like chapters in a story, which is why I am a huge fan of early Americana cookbooks, because this is what they did. You can easily see how they're like, okay, so if you just made this recipe, then you can also make this. And this is kitchen economy, but somewhere along the way, we've traded that for convenience and these 200-page cookbooks that actually don't help us meal plan. Listen, I love watching America's Test Kitchen and cooking shows in general, but you know they're cooking with a full crew, right? Because Sandra's cooking after a 10-hour workday and maybe laundry that she forgot to take out of the washer. So what I'm showing you is for us. Okay, I am running my mouth and we did not make the herb dip. Okay, so for this recipe, we are going to reach in our meal prep bin and we are just going to spoon and, like however much dipping sauce you think you are going to need. And I also want to mention that it's not that I am using the majority of everything that I cooked this week. However, stuff like this, like with pantry staples, and if you watch my substitution video, y'all, I know that substitution video was long, but I am telling you, that is in like the background of my cooking. And I was really thorough in that video, and I want to continue to do more of that. But this yogurt is going to keep for a few more weeks. It's fine, so I'm not worried about always using everything up if it's a pantry staple. So yeah, we're just going to take this and then we're going to season it up with some fresh herbs. All right, we're tossing in a whole lot of green onions because these are just growing like crazy in my garden. I just get them from the grocery store, and because they come with the roots, they just grow like all throughout the summer. And then this is some parsley. It's a lot, it's super generous, but this dip is super flavorful. And since these are cut and come again herbs, hey, I got it like that, y'all. I am herb rich. And then I'm just gonna season with a little bit of pepper and a pinch of salt. And what's crazy is, think about how much they would charge you for those little like boutique containers, even at Aldi, right? If you didn't know how to make your own yogurt sauce. Doesn't that look good? Now don't forget about our limes. They are the secret weapon in this sauce, and they are also in season and on sale right now. Our batter is chilled and the oil is hot. It's go time. And you do not have to be perfect with these. Now, I don't fry a whole heck of a lot, so this feels like it is a treat. Oh, these are still so hot. But you're just gonna take your fritters and then you'll spoon over a little bit of this flavorful yogurt sauce. And then you just pop these bad boys in your mouth. Yeah, it's so good. You're having a completely different taste profile in your mouth that you took no time to make. And you feel like on a Friday night when you want to make reminiscent of, like, I mean, not that we ever really did this because it just wasn't like affordable, but it feels like you're doing your own takeout right at home. Oh, these are so good. And there's so much flavor already baked into these, right? If I had to start from scratch every single night and make these recipes, I would be exhausted. But in these fritters, I've got tons of vegetables, tons of fiber, tons of nutrients. And so, like, this is a meal that I can still feel good about. All right, y'all, so this is dinner. I'm about to take this out to our table on the deck and we're gonna enjoy the wonderful breeze outside. To get more recipe inspiration, click the video on your screen. I'll see you in my kitchen or garden soon. Take care, friends.